Brett. That Robert guy's homicidal tendencies, or at least menacing attitude, has taken the chaos I was experiencing in building and escalated it to an unbelievable level. I was thrown back in my chair, where you saw me, when you told me he was the one who for whatever reason called the police after he instigated the entire situation. I noticed he was acting off a few days before he came over to apparently send me to the morgue. Please keep in mind, I don't know this guy beside the fact he's the guy for 2.5 years who screams the top of his lungs profanities up and down the street starting at about 3 o'clock a.m. and in front of the kids, of all people, during the day. Besides Tourette's syndrome or something, he obviously has deep-seated, extremely violent psychological problems. He has never attacked me though, or even been violent towards me until last week. I've consciously avoided him since the day I saw him, 3 or 4 years ago. I've seen him do some very aggressive things too. Other people. I saw him blow up on a bus driver one day, a couple of the times at the bus stop off of Rice Street, yelling as loud as he can as if he's having a psychotic break. I'm pretty sure I know by name the prostitute he kicked out of his apartment that one night about 1.5 years ago, who he was yelling at while she ran down the street. Get the fuck out of here, you dirty whore. You're a fucking whore. I pay you to go the fuck away, you stupid bitch. Get the fuck out of here. 4. Like 15 minutes. I don't think she was even still out there after a minute or so. She's actually a nice person besides her extremely undesirable occupational choice. I remember him creeping around behind another resident lady, who would take her dog for a walk and smoke over in the medical building's parking lot. I don't know her name, so I guess that's not very much help to you guys. I don't see her around anymore. I don't even get out anymore except for groceries to avoid him and one other person. You know the residence guest in building I'm referring to. If this guy, who obviously has very dangerous psychological problems, decides to attempt to send me to the morgue, I'd just like my adult children and grandkids to know what happened. I'm not worried about it, but I attribute that to my stroke. I'm not aware of imminent danger without that little piece of my brain that popped. I almost called an ambulance last night. I was able to calm down from having another anxiety attack though. Capital I. Started thinking there was no escape to the unreasonable chaos I've experienced the last couple of years with CC's, rather than Mel and her lackeys Kevin, Capo and Robert. I felt as if I was and am still being harassed daily by just those few people in building A, who I have had less than 5 minutes of conversation with since the first time I met them combined. I think Kevin is just a victim of all this as well, but I have no physical proof, and he hasn't been confrontational since the last time. And that past issue is beside the point of this current situation, which involves the entire complex and the families across the street. Robert is the only one who has actually threatened my life verbally and physically. I can and will not physically fight. I'm literally, legally, physically and neurologically disabled, and would have to just sit there and let whoever's rage pour out on me until they come to their senses or I exit this reality, will say. I died in August of 2014 and again in February of 2015, and I am not worried about death at all. I would just rather avoid any more compound physical recovery time caused by someone completely out of their right mind just taking their aggression out on some random person that is me. Since I'm still recovering from something almost 10 years ago, my reasonable request to move, which I don't think you realize how much I appreciate, man Brett, thank you so much, was for my actual mental well-being, and now I find myself, over the last week, being harassed and almost forcibly stopped by Robert on my way to Target in the mornings for breakfast. He will see me from all the way across the parking lot or up at his apartment or wherever he isn't hanging out like a weird gargoyle, watching everybody cursing them under his breath or yelling at the top of his lungs, and I'm not calling him names. I'm trying to describe his demeanor like a predatory homicidal stalker. Then he walks up as fast as he can across the parking lot to try to cut me off on my path, which he is very familiar with. The second day I had a problem with him, and one of those days where he was in my path, and to be polite and keep the peace I simply said good morning. Sorry about any misunderstanding yesterday, before he threatened my life and appeared to actually be fighting the urge to kill me for some reason before apparently filing a false police report, which is a crime also. Let's keep in mind I don't know this guy at all. Besides, he lives in the apartment complex. I don't know his last name. I don't even care. I have no reason to know. For some reason he's obsessed with me, like a rooster pissed off that another rooster moved into the tree next to his. Or an entitled woman or delusional Karen turned down for the first time in her life. This nonsense started about a week ago in front of Diedrich. He asked me a weird question like, "Why are you so down on humanity?" I didn't know what he was talking about at all. I don't know the guy. I told him something like, "I'm not down on humanity, I'm just down on people who are disrespectful to their neighbors," or something like that. It was referring to the screaming kids and his screaming, but I didn't want the confrontation again. I wondered what Diedrich thought of the comment, but just wrote it off as more psychotic jibber-jabber from the schizophrenic Tourette's guy. That's just how I refer to him in my head. The other morning, I opened my door around 4 in the morning just to see the moon, and he was sitting down in his smoking spot staring up at me. I looked back up at the moon for probably 2 or 3 minutes. When I turned around to go back in, and I realized he was still just looking up at my apartment. The night before last I woke up thinking someone was calling my name, and I looked out of my window and he was standing on the sidewalk down by the office smoking while going over his plans to kill me. It sounded as if he was trying to convince himself that I hadn't done anything wrong and that I am a nice guy, and then he'd argue that I was his only problem and his problems will stop if he just gets rid of me. He walked away, so again, I thought, he's just that schizophrenic Tourette's guy who screams up and down the street, and just continued to write it off since he has been doing it since I've been aware of him. Earlier that same day I thought I saw one of my chicken friends walking from the mum in her kids at the picnic table across the street, who was worried he killed the day he almost attacked me and threatened my life. "You'll end up in a morgue." His reply to me simply and honestly warning him for his own good that there were witnesses watching us in the greyish-blue building, and if he even pushes me, because I'm disabled, he's going to end up in jail. I went down to say hi to him, Melvin the chicken, and couldn't find him, so I walked up the sidewalk, around Jackie's place and over to the ditch on the other side of the building to look for him. Again, Melvin the chicken. I didn't stop my casual walk all the way around while noticing him following me. I've noticed that if I walk faster he walks twice as fast. If I just walk slow, as if he's not there, he just follows me about 50 feet away. He had blown his voice out from screaming, so his voice was hoarse, but he yelled as loud as he could at me, "Hey, please keep in mind this is after he made me promise to never say hello to him or talk to him again." He keeps confronting me, and like that second day, if I say good morning or I'm sorry or anything, then I've broken the promise and I'm starting a fight with him, even though he walked an entire block to cut me off while I hobble my strokey body over to Target to get coffee. You and Diedrich witnessed one of these days with him walking up behind me us while we were talking behind the office. He had been following me for about 45 minutes. I also heard him trying to recruit that crazy grey-haired homeless man, who looks very similar to him. I think I heard again, "Take care of the problem." The next day that guy was waiting for me at Target while Robert was following me. The other guy followed me into Target and then later was waiting for me by the retainer wall on my way back home. Oh, that was the day I said hi to you and Diedrich on my way back up to the apartment. My brain sometimes feels like Miku looks. Miku spent the last few days camping on the west side to avoid the nonsense here. I don't know if he was referring to Robert or not. We try not to speak negatively, as if we're going to manifest negativity or something. I guess he's heard a lot more than I have. I bet where he lives, Robert's downstairs neighbor, right? I don't even think Miku would be as confrontational as writing an email like this. Can you imagine if this was happening to him instead of me? Even though he lost his right side and I lost my left side, I have recovered much more functionality than he has since 2014, the same year I had my stroke. I truly appreciate you asking me if I would like to move to Building B. I never imagined I'd be dealing with this small-minded rooster mentality from a 60-year-old man who at times appears sane and very physically fit. He kind of has that Hollywood prison physique, probably intimidating prior to my stroke. My brain is a little strokey still though. I only have 10 years of clear experimental memories. I've witnessed so much uncivilized behavior with some of the residents who have lived here. Past tense. Mostly, that I just assume this is how it is in the projects or even the Hawaiian Islands. If it's not racism against white people, it's crazy white schizophrenics who have had to deal with that racial aggression and lost their minds or something. We all have issues. That's why I haven't involved the police. And a more depressing and morbid reason I probably shouldn't share in an email intended for someone other than a psychologist. I have bad days, but I never have picked an innocent target to hunt or stalk and harass or bully. I hate bullies, but like I said, I can't see me successfully physically fighting someone or even successfully defending myself. It's 3:32. I haven't seen him since 3:30 this morning down by the street, but this behavior has been happening daily since the day I began moving. I avoid him at all costs, but it's hard to do when he is actively stalking or yelling at me from wherever he is, at the top of his lungs. I truly have no idea why he is frustrated with me in the least. I haven't once said a bad word to him. Even when I said he would end up in jail, that was to save him from a bunch of jail hassle. I truly want the best for everyone, but can only control myself, and that's a full-time job only operating at about 76%. I keep the peace by trying to stay peaceful and attempting to ignore any belligerent, drug-induced, or psychotic pathology, from the homeless mentally ill to the non-parented screaming banshees at the elevator and building I don't know a way to make other people peaceful. But maybe your actions and this email helps him into a program or mental hospital and the right medications to bring peace to his mind. Which, oh my god, that guy needs some peace. I feel sorry for him, but if I still had little ones running around, this guy wouldn't be allowed anywhere near them. Again, I wish the best for him and hope this email helps you, all of us. Hopefully he receives the mental help he needs. This needs to be handled very sternly and carefully so he doesn't fall through the cracks and just end up in jail or another homeless menace to society. This guy needs major psychological help, as we all know. That's not my opinion. I'm simply stating a fact. Shiva Wheeler 0101